What it is, y'all, it's me, T aka Teopatra, and you're listening to TM.2 Radio. Today's topic, once again, is going to be about the significance of saying 111, whether on the clock or out and about. So, in my last video, I explained the numerological meaning of one in itself, but today I'm going to further explain how to interpret this language frequency and its number form and how to act on it. Like I said before, the number one deals with thought, the self, yang, or masculine nature, and action. Although all these things represent the number one, and in its astrological form, I can't talk. Although all these things represent the number one, and in its astrological terms, its archetype being Aries, represented by the first house on the natal wheel, action is the best way to interpret C in 111. Now, if you want more keywords and information on the number one, then you can start by looking at Aries archetype. If you're just seeing the number one in itself, you can use those keywords for their meaning literally, but since 111 sums to three represented by Gemini constellation or the third house on the natal wheel, and the archetype for and its planet and the archetype, one of its archetypes actually, is its planet Mercury. All these things have to deal with thought process, communication, and group collaboration. Y'all, Mercury just went out of retrograde today, and I'm still stumbling over my words. Please bear with me. So, this group collaboration is not technically in the sense of the number 11, which is the 11th house or collective, or not in the same group that the seventh house will represent, which is actually Aries opposite. Seven having to deal with platonic and romantic relationships. Like I said, it's the opposite of one. So when I say group in regards to the number three, I mean collaboration. So three literally is your surroundings, whether it be people in your house, like your roommates, your coworkers, or even other random people that are driving alongside you on the road. One, three times is asking you to think about what idea you have that needs to be relayed or communicated to your environment. If you're seeking to be an influencer, or you feel more comfortable relaying information on the internet, then what idea, topic, or thought process do you have that needs to be shared in that manner? Or in your friend group or work situation, what advice could you give that you may use on your own motivation, not realizing that it's vital information that could benefit other people as well? Now, it's easy to assume that other people may not care as much about the things that we have to talk about, that, especially like if you're at work and they're not work related, but that's not even the best place to try to talk about those things anyway. But just like, for example, if you have a social media page, you got a Facebook, a LinkedIn, or you just want to talk about things, with people around you in general. Like I said, we can assume that other people may already know these things or they just might not care, but whether somebody may be privy to information already isn't the point. A reminder is a blessing. And we may not realize that we share similar ideas with people we interact with just simply because we don't think much about it. And this is where the number three comes in, because communication and collaboration or collaborative effort is where we fall short, since we can be too focused on our own lives. The dark side of one is selfishness, because we don't realize how valuable sharing information can be. And we may blame that on things like or we can actually blame that on things like the internet or political stances, religious viewpoints, and things like that relate to basically societal norms. So the archetype of one is the pioneer, meaning that they're the first to do or say something. Although physics states that energy is not created or destroyed, we may believe that our ideas don't belong to us, which in a sense is true when there are other people that share the same views as us. But it's about how you give the message to your group or surroundings and how you relay it in your own words. So if you see 111 or any repeated number in that moment, whether you see it on a receipt, a billboard, whatever, you're being guided to focus on that specific moment. What information are you absorbing? You can simply be on TikTok or YouTube and see it. So what is it that you're seeing? What are you hearing? Or you could be listening to a song. How does the song make you feel? What are the lyrics? Like your pet could appear in your room right when you see 111, or you just hear some random noise in the distance, like a train or somebody laugh or a lawnmower, just something random. It's all synchronistic. It's just to bring awareness to that moment. So all these things are up to interpretation, but with the number one, what insight are you gaining in that moment? Because whatever insight that is, someone else could literally benefit from it, and you may not even realize it. So because someone could be talking about something you relate to, like if you're on YouTube or if you're watching something, or even if you're watching a show, you see one, somebody could be talking about something that you relate to, and in that moment you're realizing how other people are literally dealing with the same things that you're dealing with. So that is your sign to share your experience. This guidance can literally help you open up more, or help you realize how important your experience was, whether it was negative or positive for you. Either way, it shaped you. I can also interpret 111 literally to say, like, you're right, or do it. The dark side of number one is selfishness. And if you're not a selfish person at all, maybe you're being too selfless, which is also like a shadow aspect to one, because each individual is meant to be a collaborative effort to society, but you as an individual also have to stand for something. This is why one is opposite to the seventh house on a natal wheel, or Libra, because Libra doesn't just represent beauty and relationships, but more importantly, it represents balance, harmony, law, and justice, or divine justice, Mayat. So, how does the self versus Mayat, or divine justice, polarize the self? If 111 is asking you, what do you know to be true? What do you like? What do you stand for? And what can you easily share with the world, but may hold back due to criticism of others or the outside world? The opposite energy highlights harmony. Sometimes being a pioneer to a thought or idea can be perceived as disharmonious because it throws off what looks like natural symmetry. If you have a corporation, you have to have somebody who's in charge. The person in charge has to make the toughest or tough decisions, and has to think for the group as a whole. Whereas the group does its personal duties that aid in the whole process, but if there's no one to manage and realize the things that are flowing and the things that are causing distraction or disharmony, although each individual working for the corporation is doing its part, just because you're doing your part isn't enough, because your part can begin to burden the group. So we already talked about the fact that one is thought. But the most important thing, like I said, to take away is action. The action after thought, the action behind thought. So if I'm making this video right now, even though it's past 111, but if I happen to see 111, that would just let me know that I would have to put out this information right whenever I'm thinking about it. I can't sit and let it ruminate, because like when I said about Aries being the archetype of one, Aries is literally about action. It's cardinal fire. It does not wait. It gets things done in the moment, because if you allow time to marinate over this idea, not only can the idea become diluted, but you can miss the mark and timing where people may need to hear the message now. But like I said, it's also about action. That's why I brought up the masculine energy, because masculine energy or left brain activity is about action, whereas a feminine is about internalizing, or is about intuition and feeling things. So if you're seeing 111, you have information or an idea that will benefit the people around you, whether it be the immediate people that you know, people that are familiar to you, mutuals, associates, or even just simply on the internet. 111 is asking you to realize where you are being too selfish, which can be holding on to information, or being too selfless because you're too busy helping other people instead of focusing on the information that you have that can be so basic but very, very necessary. So never downplay your ideas, because we spend so much time focusing on trying to just get things done in life and make ends meet, that we don't make time for our passions and our hobbies. And whether we believe in reincarnation or not, you only get one life, or you have this life that you have now. So in this life that you have now, you can have all these great ideas, but it means nothing if you're not acting on them. So 111 is asking you to figure out how to act on your thoughts. So my advice, which I'm going to make a couple more videos about this topic just so we can really hone in on the frequency of 111, especially as we're going from Capricorn season to Aquarius season, because Aquarius represents the 11th house, which is 1 twice over, whereas Capricorn represents the 10th house, which is just 1 and 0, which technically is a completion. Right now, go back to your drawing board. Specifically, if you're a person that likes to take notes, or you do actually screenshot synchronicities, if you happen to have like synchronicities that you've jotted down, or you, like in your notes, or you wrote down somewhere, or you took a picture, go back through them and think and look at the time and think about why you had that idea and that feeling attached to those ideas. And all of that stuff is very relevant right now. I even went back in my notes app on my phone and I typed in 111, and I even typed in the time 111, and I had notes that were correlating to it. And it was the same stuff that I was got it back to. Like, I haven't seen 111 repeatedly in a minute. I've been seeing other types of numbers, but I've been seeing it. And when I went back in my notes, I was like, wow. Like, sometimes we make simple things complex. And the ideas that you have, there's no need to have a new idea. It's just go back to your old ideas. That's why 1 is the first month of the year. Obviously, why would I say that 1 is the first month of the year? But what I'm trying to say is that the theme of 111 is very on trend for it being the new year, because you can literally go back to the drawing board, especially coming out of retrograde, Mercury retrograde and Mars retrograde. Reevaluate your past ideas, reevaluate your past desires and topics and passions, and implement them now. Use the energy of the 111 portal, January 11 portal, going forward into the Aquarius new moon, which is on January 21st. If you act on these ideas now, I promise you that you will see a lot more of an outcome in a shorter time span than you have ever before.